Good morning, Acadiana. Thank you so much for tuning in to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with The Advocate. Thanks as always to Dig CC Mixter and all the artists out there who are putting out music for you to use as long as you give them credit under the Creative Commons license. Today we heard Lost in Memory from Gurdonark, Pumpkin Soup from Airtone, and How Do You Feel from Ivan Chu, and maybe we heard a little bit of Reflect in the Rain by Mana Junkie. Thanks again to those artists and to Dig CC Mixter for providing that service and that directory. We'd also like to thank, of course, our partners, The Advocate, our local news organization, and as always, we want to give a big thanks and round of applause to the voice of Local News Live on most mornings. That is, of course, our wonderful, dedicated, beautiful volunteer, Bruce Cohen. Bruce, welcome to the show.
I don't know if I can read after that intro.
Oh, I think you can, at least.
Okay.
All right. Have a good morning reading the news, Bruce. I'm going to go listen online.
All right, my friend. You take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, again, good morning to you, Acadiana. Here to read all the news that fits into hopefully 50 to 55 minutes or so. I think we can do that this morning. We'll start off with some local news, and then we'll get into some of the state news. And we even have a sports story this morning. So again, good morning. Cajun Dome losses piling up. Director says cancellations due to pandemic could put facility in jeopardy by Claire Taylor, staff writer. Unless concerts and other events return to the Cajun Dome this fall, the director told the Lafayette City Council on Tuesday she might have to turn the keys over to the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, which owns the building. Pam DeVille, who has been the Cajun Dome director since October 2018, said events planned for March, April, May, and June at the Cajun Dome and Convention Center have either been canceled or delayed because of the coronavirus pandemic and government-ordered closures. Slemco canceled its annual meeting, she said, and on Monday, the Games of Acadiana canceled. The centers lost a $1 million event along with concerts by musicians Reba McEntire, Kiss, and Keith Urban. The losses are piling up, DeVille said, and people are scared to attend events in large groups. If events scheduled for August, September, and October are canceled, She said that will mean another $2.2 million loss. There's going to be no way for us to make that up next year, DeVille said. DeVille has been beating the bushes for money from the state, securing a $975,000 loan from the State Bond Commission to protect the building and ticket sales revenue, which has to be held in an account and refunded if an event is canceled. She has asked UL and State Senate President Paige Cortez of Lafayette for help on Tuesday and asked the City Council and Administration for an emergency capital improvement loan or grant. Coming September, if we don't have something to hang our hat on, she said, we're going to have to hand the keys and checkbook to the university. The Cajun Dome, with its annual budget averaging $4 million to $6 million, self-generates much of its funding from things such as ticket fees, merchandise sales, concession sales, catering, and an annual fair. It used to receive a $500,000 subsidy from the city, but that's been reduced to $320,000, DeVille said. The facility doesn't qualify for federal disaster assistance, and it could take months, even years, before federal and state aid arrives. I don't have 6 months, DeVille said. Plans for reopening the Cajun Dome and Convention Center are circulating in hopes people will see the safety measures in place and attend events. The plans include an upgraded heating, ventilating, and air conditioning system to better clean the air and installing in entrances thermal cameras that will automatically take the temperatures of everyone entering. Fever is an indication of COVID-19. Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory said he and the City Council will do what they can to help save the Cajun Dome, but he warned the city's tax revenue is down dramatically too. I'm asking for a way to keep the building operating, to regain the confidence of the community, DeVille said. I've got to get to next spring. I've got to be able to do those shows. Contract tracing ramps up as part of reopening plan by Matt Sledge and Ben Myers, staff writers for The Advocate. Government contractors in Louisiana have been swamped with thousands of job applications for a federally funded program to track and isolate new coronavirus cases as the state begins to reopen. The State Department of Health has hired contractors to manage as many as 700 contact tracers that will call people who may have been exposed to the virus. And although some groups say many more tracers must be needed, state contract documents and interviews with health officials offer a window into how Louisiana public health officials are planning to deal with what epidemiologists say is a critical part of managing the health crisis while trying to reopen the state's economy. In the early days of Louisiana's outbreak, the state started tracking people who may have been exposed to others who were known to have the coronavirus. But the staff of 70 contact tracers employed by the Department of Health were quickly overwhelmed as known cases surged into the thousands in late March and early April. They essentially gave up on morning contacts in some parts of Louisiana, the state has acknowledged. But earlier this month, the state tapped 4 companies, 2 in Lafayette, 1 in New Orleans, and 1 in West Monroe, to hire, train, and pay hundreds of contact tracers. The newly hired tracers began work on May 15th to coincide with the first phase of Governor John Bel Edwards' reopening plan. The state says it plans to pay an estimated $15 million to $20 million in federal money to Lafayette-based Hub or HUB Enterprises and Calls Plus, West Monroe-based Coast Professional, and New Orleans-based Hammerman and Gaynor. The companies are rapidly hiring employees. The contractors could eventually place employees in call centers, but for now, it will appear most will work from home, scattered throughout the state. With tens of thousands of people in Louisiana recently laid off, the jobs are in high demand. Hub Enterprises, which, while among other businesses conducts surveillance and private investigations for corporate clients, has already filled about 300 positions after receiving 2,000 applications, said Robert Buchanan, the company's vice president. We're moving very quickly and bringing people on. Every couple hours, that number changes, Buchanan said, referring to the number of hires. We are not discouraging people from continuing to apply because, again, we don't know what the needs are going to be. Call center contractor Calls Plus said it has also received an overwhelming number of applications. Calls to Coast Professional and Hammerman and Gaynor were not returned. Contact tracing involves telephone calls to people who test positive for the coronavirus, followed by calls to others with whom that person has been in close physical contact. Contacts may then be advised to get tested and to self-isolate for 14 days. In conjunction with testing, tracing is crucial to chopping off the chains of transmission, said Susan Hazek, an epidemiologist at Tulane University. Contact tracing is a really important part of tamping down and reducing the spread. Similar methods have previously been used to stamp out mumps and hepatitis outbreaks, officials said, though the scale of the program is much larger. Louisiana is modeling its program after one in Massachusetts using the same software from Salesforce.com that has been adapted by the consulting firm Accenture. How contact traces will work, as well as the state's ambitions for the contact tracing program, are laid out in the contracts with the call centers. The state will provide the call centers with a data feed of every patient who tests positive. Those case patients will get a telephone call from the state's contact tracers, who within 48 hours will try to reach anyone the patient was in contact with during the same period when the patient was likely contagious. Contact tracers, who must be high school graduates, will get about 11 hours of training before being assigned to patients and working off a script that will ask patients for information on any social events, religious services, or other gatherings they may have recently attended. Contact tracers will also ask about coworkers and household members. Patients will be informed that contact tracers will reach out of their contacts without revealing the case patients' names. Those needing additional support to isolate, behavioral health therapy or grocery delivery, for example, will be referred to United Way, which will initiate a follow-up call. Emergency housing may also be available on a limited basis, according to the state, but officials cannot say how much. With no money to offer people who may lose work if they isolate at home, public health officials have to rely on people's sense of civic duty, said Josh Michaud, an epidemiologist and associate director for global health policy at the Henry J. Kaiser Family Foundation. It's kind of like serving on a journey. You have to take time off of your life to do the civic duty. In this case, it's quarantining yourself, he said. While officials are urging residents to cooperate with contact tracers, nothing can compel anyone to do so, said Omar Khalid, Chief of Staff at the Office of Public Health, who's overseeing the contact tracing program. Cell phone data will not be used to track compliance, he said. There is nothing in the contact tracing interview that is going to force anyone to do anything, Khalid said. This is for a public health good. Louisiana also plans to help contact tracing limited to phone calls and text messages rather than in-person visits, according to Khalid. Edwards says he has said the state is initially looking to hire 700 tracers, a goal that state officials expect to meet within 6 weeks. Call volume, which is hard to predict from the outset, will determine staffing levels as the program moves forward, according to Khalid. But even 700 tracers will put the state at only half the number that the Association of State and Territorial Health Officials estimate Louisiana will need, Michaud said. Hiring will err on the side of having more tracers than needed because sudden increases in contacts would occur without warning, Khalid said. You'll never have the perfect amount. We would rather have some that are waiting on workload, he said. Khalid said the state eventually will share contact tracing related data to help the public measure the state's progress. He cannot say exactly when or what that data will entail. The program's effectiveness will largely depend on the tracer's success in persuading people to cooperate. Those receiving calls are more likely to provide reliable, consistent information if they trust the person at the other end, said Barbara Lamont, president of Calls Plus. This has to be a people-to-people conversation to have your data really have integrity, Lamont said. All right, we'll take a little bit of a break and read a couple of PSAs for the morning. AOC teams up with United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United program has weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC 2 and Cox 16 and LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch. For the daily schedules and to submit content for the program, visit the United Way of Acadiana website. That's unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn /learn-united. That's unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. In early April, Vitalant, the nation's largest independent nonprofit blood service provider, launched a program in collaboration with hospital partners, the Mayo Clinic, and the American Red Cross to treat COVID-19 patients with convalescent plasma. The Food and Drug Administration has identified and approved convalescent plasma treatment as an emergency investigational new drug. It is currently the only antibody treatment available to COVID-19 patients, and as such is a promising new treatment option. Vitalant is seeking convalescent plasma donors to help patients. Eligibility criteria are prior diagnosis of COVID-19, documented by a laboratory test or a positive serological test for the SARS-CoV-2 antibodies taken after recovery, complete resolution of symptoms for at least 14 days, meet all other current FDA donor eligibility requirements to donate plasma. Even with these requirements, there may be additional tests or other criteria required. In some instances, those who have recovered from COVID-19 may be able to donate even if they did not have an initial laboratory test. Those who meet the above criteria and want to donate plasma are encouraged to apply through the Vitalant website. That's Vitalant, VITALANT.org/COVID-free. For more information, please call 866-287-5762. That's 866-287-5762. Turning back to the news of today. In the Acadiana area, outbreaks of new cases slows down. Previous spike attributed to crawfish farm clusters by Ben Meyer, staff writer. New coronavirus cases in Acadiana slowed to a trickle on Wednesday, with only 3 new cases reported across the 7-parish region. There was 1 new death reported in St. Landry Parish, where 52 people have died from coronavirus infections. 2 of the new cases were reported in Lafayette Parish, and the other one was in Iberia Parish. That followed consistent, sharp increases in the 7-day rolling average of new cases over the past week. The increases were at least partially attributable to outbreaks among employees in close living quarters at 3 crawfish farms in Lafayette and Acadia parishes. Officials on Monday said the outbreaks had resulted in 100 new cases, but it's not clear when those cases were reported to the state. Even with a small number of cases reported Wednesday, an average of 25.6 new cases were reported daily over the past week in Acadiana. That does not include an enormous daily tally on May 13th that resulted from the state's clearing of test backlogs. The rolling 7-day average of new cases in Acadiana was nearly identical on Wednesday to what it was on April 25th, and 66% higher than it was on May 12th, 1 day before the backlog clearing, as it was steadily decreasing to new lows. Huge increases in Acadia Parish drove much of the increases in Acadiana over the past week. Even with no cases added Wednesday, the number of cases in Acadia has risen 65% since May 14th, from 159 to 262. The 7-day average in new cases in Lafayette Parish on Wednesday was 10, with 2 new cases added. That was down from earlier in the week when the average still reflected the backlog clearing, but it is still higher than the 9.6 recorded on April 19th, when the average began a steadily decline. The 7-day average in Lafayette Parish dipped to as low as 2.6 on May 8th, before rebounding into the 4 to 5 range in the days prior to the backlog clearing. Testing in Lafayette and the total number of positive cases, or percentage of tests complete, have remained generally steady. The number of tests reported every day over the last week has been between 220 and 270 in 5 days, with 2 days below 200. The percentage of tests with positive results in Lafayette has hovered around 4.6, which is below the Acadiana regional mark of 6.9% and well below the statewide percentage of 12.4%. For reasons that weren't immediately clear, however, the total number of reported tests across Acadiana dropped on Wednesday to 26,834, a decrease of 2,461 from the previous day. Okay. Director hired to lead Lafayette Financing Agency staff report. The Lafayette Public Trust Financing Authority has hired the organization's first executive director. Kevin Blanchard will begin next week after the agency's board voted to authorize his hiring at a special meeting on Monday. The board's hiring committee recommended Blanchard for the job after a month-long search. The Financing Authority was formed in 1979 with the express purpose of benefiting Lafayette. It is self-funded from revenues generated from its investments, all of which have a public purpose. Besides its real estate investments, the Financing Authority has helped fund public ventures such as the purchase of the old federal building, initial seed funding from Monkus Park, the Rosa Parks Multimodal Transportation Center, and the Acadian Center for the Arts. About 2 years ago, the agency conducted a strategic plan to work on ways the trust could increase its impact on behalf of the community, Board Chairman Anthony Daniels said. Hiring an executive director was one of the action items in that plan, he said. Director of Operations, Rebecca Miller, will continue to serve in that role, Daniel said. The board is excited about the team that is coming together, Daniel said. We believe that Kevin's unique background and experience will be of great benefit to the trust and the community. Blanchard, an attorney and a former journalist, was previously the chief operating officer at Southern Lifestyle Development, where he helped oversee the development of dozens of real estate projects. Blanchard also served as the Public Works Director and Chief Development Officer for Lafayette Consolidated Government, or LCG. Blanchard also has a history of civic engagement, from being chairman of the Residence Committee that oversaw the development and adoption of Lafayette's comprehensive plan, to helping lead the effort to amend the city parish charter so that the city would have its own council. I look forward to working with the board to strengthen the trust's financial position while engaging more assertively on investments on the north side, Blanchard said. I believe strongly in the trust's mission to benefit the city of Lafayette, and a city cannot be successful without real investment in its core. 4 indicted in Lafayette man's and jury January slaying, crime blotter, and the daily crime blotter from the Advocate staff reports. A Lafayette grand jury Wednesday formally charged 4 suspects in the January homicide of John Hickenbottom, a 41-year-old man shot outside the Edwards Street home he shared with his mother, Drake Duhon, 17, was indicted on a charge of second-degree. Drake Duhon, 17, was indicted on a charge of second-degree murder. Logan LaCroix, 19, was indicted on a charge of principal of second-degree murder. Heidi Bergeron, 38, was indicted on a charge of principal to second-degree murder. And Tyler Pellerin, 18, was indicted on a charge of principal to second-degree murder. The jury declined to indict Pellerin on a second charge of attempted second-degree murder against another man, Kyle Hayes, on the same January day. The 4 suspects were arrested the day after the shooting. Hickenbottom was shot about 10:20 p.m., January 29th, in the 100 block at Edward Street. He suffered multiple gunshot wounds and was taken to a hospital where he was later pronounced dead, a Lafayette Police Department statement said. Family friend Joshua Himmel said Hickenbottom's mother, Lynette, was sleeping inside their shared home when the shooting happened, and she awoke to find her son mortally wounded. Family said a friend of Hickenbottom's was engaged in an ongoing feud with the teenagers. Hickenbottom's friend and the suspects were arguing in the street, and when he attempted to intervene to de-escalate the fight, Hickenbottom was shot, Himmel said. Hickenbottom has had previous run-ins with the law, including an unauthorized use of a motor vehicle charge in 2018, but he was a good man who died trying to do the right thing, his loved ones said. Phil Platt man, And in another story, a Phil Platt man killed in head-on crash. A Phil Platt man died after a head-on crash with an 18-wheeler Wednesday in Evangeline Parish. Joseph Lee Willis, 31, was traveling south on LA 13 when he crossed the center line into the path of a northbound 2000 Peterbilt 18-wheeler. The trucker swerved to the left to avoid collision, but Willis also took corrective actions and attempted to re-enter the southbound lane. The two collided head-on. State Police Trooper 1 spokesman Trooper Thomas Gosson said in a release. The crash happened about 6 a.m. on LA 13 near Gilbert Road. Willis was not wearing a seatbelt and was pronounced dead at the scene by the Evangeline Parish Coroner's Office. The driver of the 18-wheeler was wearing a seatbelt and was uninjured in the crash. Toxicology samples were taken from both drivers, Gosson said. All right, we're getting close to our halfway mark. So let's read a couple more PSAs, shall we? And then we can jump into day in history and the zodiac or horoscope, as I refer to it. If you are having difficulty during this COVID-19 pandemic in terms of mental health or just feeling lost and alone, there is a Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline that you can call. So if you're dealing with stress, fear, and anxiety about the uncertainties surrounding the public health emergency, please call 1-866-310-7977. This connects you to trained compassionate counselors who can offer support and can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. Trained counselors are available 24/7. Again, all calls are confidential, and you can call 866-310-7977. Medicaid resources. If you have lost your job or you have reduced hours, you may be eligible for Medicaid. You can apply online at mymedicaid.la.gov. You can also apply by phone by calling 1-888-342-6207 or by mail by sending information to Louisiana Medicaid, P.O. Box 91283, Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70821. Local Medicaid offices are currently closed to the public. If additional assistance is needed, you can call again 888-342-6207. Locally, Stop the Spread, call instead. #Stop the Spread. For the latest local COVID-19 updates and information, please visit 311lafayette.services. That's www.311lafayette.services. Call centers with volunteers and medical professionals are active 24/7 to answer your questions about COVID-19 and to determine if you need to get screened. You can just pick up the phone, call 311. You may also call 311 and press option 2 if you are a business owner or employee or are looking for a job to get information about applying for a small business recovery loan, apply for unemployment benefits, and related programs. Again, that's 311. LEDA, individuals whose hours are being reduced at work or have been laid off from employment may qualify for unemployment insurance benefits. If you're attempting to apply for unemployment insurance and are not able to access an existing online account or need help resetting your password, please call Lafayette's Kitiana Workforce Solutions office at area code 337-262-5601. And due to the high call volume, some calls may not be answered immediately, so call again at a later time or contact one of Louisiana's other local offices for assistance. In addition to the unemployment insurance benefits, individuals looking for supplemental income can consider local employment opportunities with businesses who are seeking temporary, part-time, and full-time workers by visiting the COVID-19 Help Wanted resource page at Lafayette.org/Help Wanted, or LEADER's a virtual job fair page with local businesses seeking to hire local candidates for full-time employment opportunities at Lafayette.org/jobs. All right, jumping back into the news. Let's see. Let's go to the day in history, shall we? Today is Thursday, May 21st, the 142nd day of 2020. There are 224 days left in the year, or potential shopping days, as I normally say. Today's highlight in history on May 21st, 1927. Charles A. Lindbergh landed his Spirit of St. Louis monoplane near Paris, completing the first solo airplane flight across the Atlantic Ocean in 33 and a half hours. On this date in 1471, King Henry VI of England died in the Tower of London at age 49. In 1542, Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto died while searching for gold along the Mississippi River. In 1868, Ulysses S. Grant was nominated for president by the Republican National Convention in Chicago. In 1881, Clara Barton founded the American Red Cross. In 1892, the opera Pagalici by Ruggero Leoncavallo premiered in Milan, Italy. In 1910, a year-old Jewish settlement near the port city of Jaffa adopted the name Tel Aviv. In Hebrew, that stands for Hill of Spring. In 1932, Amelia Earhart became the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean as she landed in Northern Ireland about 15 hours after leaving Newfoundland. In 1941, a German U-boat sank the American merchant steamship SS Robin Moore in the South Atlantic after the ship's passengers and crew were allowed to board lifeboats. In 1972, Michelangelo's Pieta, on display at the Vatican, was damaged by a hammer-wielding man who shouted he was Jesus Christ. In 1979, former San Francisco City Supervisor Dan White was convicted of voluntary manslaughter in the slayings of Mayor George Moscone and openly gay supervisor Harvey Milk. As a side note, if you look it up on streaming, it's probably streaming as of now, there was a movie made specifically about Harvey Milk called Milk, that a really excellent film. Sean Penn plays Harvey Milk. Excellent film about what happened during that time period and the rights of LGBTQ community. And this was basically a real step forward in that search for rights for that particular group. White was sentenced to 7 years and 8 months in prison. He ended up serving 5 years and took his own life in 1985. In 1991, former Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi was assassinated during national elections by a suicide bomber. In 2018, Syria's military captured an enclave in southern Damascus from Islamic State militants after a month-long battle, bringing the entire capital and its suburbs under full government control for the first time since the Civil War began in 2011. 10 years ago, Barack Obama directed the government to set the first ever mileage and pollution limits for big trucks and to tighten rules for future cars and SUVs. 5 years ago, 4 Malaysian Navy ships began searching for stranded boat people in the first official rescue operation since desperate migrants started washing up on Southeast Asia shores. 1 year ago, as directed by President Donald Trump, former White House counsel Donald McGahn defied a subpoena from the House Judiciary Committee to testify. McGahn had been a key figure in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation, describing ways in which the president sought to curtail the probe. Today's birthdays: Rhythm and blues singer Ron Isley from the Isley Brothers is 79. Musician Bill Champlin is 73. Single Leo Sayer is 72. Former Senator Al Franken, Democrat from Minnesota, is 69. Actor Mr. T, 68. Actor Judge Reinhold is 63. Actor-director Nick Cassavetes, 61. Look up his films. He did some incredible films. Just go to your streaming and Netflix or whatever. Look up Nick Cassavetes, and will be impressed by the films he made. And rapper Havoc, or Mob Deep, is 46. Thought for today: being frustrated is disagreeable, but the real disasters of life begin when you get what you want. Quote by Irving Kristol, American writer, 1920 to 2009. Looking at today's zodiac or horoscope, Geminis, keep moving forward. Don't let boredom set in or someone else's grandiose scheme lead you down the wrong path. Anger will surface regarding shared experiences. Cancers, a chance of plans will turn out to be advantageous. Don't fight if someone asks you to do things differently. Change will help you expand your mind and lead to innovative long-term success. Leos, how you go about your business will determine the way your day unfolds. Don't follow the crowd. Use your intelligence and experience to guide you. Virgos, my monthly sign, back away from situations that don't feel right. Let your intuition be your guide to keep you out of harm's way. Your instincts will be on target. Libras, do some research and you'll discover all sorts of alternatives to a choice someone is offering you. Trust in yourself, not in what others are pressuring you to do. Scorpio, pay closer attention to your relationships and do your best to stick to the truth when it comes to money matters and your feelings. A positive domestic change is encouraged. Sagittarius, stand up and be counted. Don't let anyone try to damage your reputation or come between you and someone you love. Romance is in the stars. Capricorns, the more you do to improve your life, enhance your home, and broaden your horizons, the more satisfaction and happiness you'll acquire. Follow your heart and share your feelings. Aquarius, observe how others react to get a good idea how you should respond and what you should do. Positive results are within reach. Pisces, mull over what's been going on, how you see things unfolding, and what you can do to make life easier. Take better care of your health, relationships, and reputation. Aries, don't let a change that someone makes cost you. It's okay to say no if you don't want to get involved in someone else's dream. Invest time and money in your own goals. And Taurus, emotional matters will push you to do things on your own. The less interference you face, the easier it will be to get things done your way. Change is heading in your direction. And as always, the zodiac or the horoscope is an entertainment feature, not based on scientific fact. Okay, let's look at some food stories locally. This one's entitled Like You're at Home. Barbecue restaurant Chops Smokehouse to open in-house on South College by Megan Wyatt, staff writer. As a real estate executive with Sterling Properties, Ryan Pico has helped hundreds of business owners realize their visions across the Gulf Coast. Now the Lafayette native is bringing his own vision to life in the form of a neighborhood barbecue restaurant, which is set to open this summer at 117 South College Road in an old home that most recently housed a spa. Chops Smokehouse will serve classic down-home barbecue and sides, along with more creative drinks and bar snacks in a space meant for lingering. Pico envisions a 2,600 square foot restaurant that have the character and charm of neighborhood restaurants he's grown to love in cities like New Orleans, Austin, Texas, and Memphis, Tennessee. I know that Lafayette is a cool place, and we all have a lot of pride in Acadiana, Pico said. But there are a lot of things we don't have. I seek out places like the establishment I'm creating here when I'm traveling because of how much I enjoy them. So part of this is a self-fulfilling prophecy to make Lafayette a little bit cooler. Chopped Smokehouse will feature an open kitchen, elevated bar, and a 1,000 square foot deck with eclectic seating under sprawling oak trees. Picote is trying to keep as much of the house intact as possible and paying homage to his own grandmother through the build-out process. He's planning to keep the original kitchen cabinets and even painted restaurant smoke shack the same shade of green to match. The tile work will also be reminiscent of what he found in the home. We want to keep it and make it feel like you're walking into your grandma's house, Picote said. We want it to feel like you're at home. The restaurant's bar, called Nanny's Drinkery, will be a more polished, finished area with a see-through bookcase. We'll serve about a dozen beers on tap along with original alcoholic and non-alcoholic options to keep with the barbecue theme. Nanny's Lemonade is a smoky take on the summer drink that comes with a grilled lemon. Nanny's Margarita comes with a grilled lime. The restaurant's core food menu will include barbecue staples of brisket, pork, sausage, turkey, and chicken, along with sides of coleslaw, mac and cheese, grits, green beans, and potato salad. Chopped Smokehouse will also offer a bar food menu with more contemporary fare, such as thin-cut bacon burnt ends served with dipping sauce, quesadillas made with barbecue meats, smoked hummus served with chips, cucumbers and sliced sausage, Cajun kettle corn with smoked peanuts. You can also eat pulled pork or brisket sandwiches so many times a month, Picote said, and we want this to be a place to hang out and drink, get a few bar snacks, and we'll have a few surprises. Chopped Smokehouse is named for Picote's dog, Chapatulas. At 41, Picote jokingly calls the restaurant endeavor his midlife crisis. The real estate executive has had more time to be involved in the project than he initially expected when he began work in January because of the coronavirus shutdown. Picote is planning to open the restaurant in June, but it could change depending on what coronavirus restrictions might still be in place this summer. He said he wouldn't open if the 25% capacity limit remained in effect, but he would consider opening if a 50% capacity limit were in place. Chopped Smokehouse will feature counter service and self-seating, at which point a server will wait on the table, bringing out food and drinks until a customer is ready to close out. The restaurant's large deck could also increase capacity since state restrictions are looser for outdoor dining. We certainly do have concerns, Picote said. We're very lucky at a spot where we don't have to open. We're going to figure it out and get it right. And in other restaurant news, World of Beer is tapped to open in August. Ambassador Shopping Center location faced years of delays by Megan White, its staff writer. It's been nearly 5 years since World of Beer first announced it would be opening a location in the Ambassador Town Center complex anchored by Costco. After years of delay, construction is underway at 111 Oak Camp Road, Suite 100, near Half Shell Oyster House. The space was originally designed for them, said Ryan Picote, an executive at Sterling Properties, same guy who's opening up the Smokehouse, the developer of Ambassador Town Center. They had signed their lease before we even started construction. This is really their space. Excuse me, let me take a little drink of liquid here. Thank you. World of Beer is known for its expensive beer selection, which includes dozens on draft and hundreds in bottles and cans. Location is also expected to serve local beers from Parish Brewery in Broussard and Bayou Teche Brewery in Arnoldville. The restaurant serves a full-service bar-themed menu with everything from flatbreads and salads to burgers and wings. World of Beer is expected to open in August, Picote said. We're looking forward to it, Picote said. We're excited. Construction finally started on the strip mall location in March, halting for a few weeks because of coronavirus quarantine requirements at the Texas-Louisiana border. It's since picked back up. Picote said it's taken years to sort out ownership issues for the World of Beer location, which transitioned from corporate run to franchise operated before reverting back to a corporate location. World of Beer has actually been paying rent for the space since the strip mall was constructed in 2015. We didn't like it being empty, but it's better than them not paying, Picote said. We always wanted them open and wanted them to help them out however we could. There have been great tenants for the city and for the center and for the city. World of Beer has more than 70 locations across the country, but doesn't operate any in Louisiana, according to the website. The Florida-based chain opened a Metairie location in 2014 and a New Orleans location in 2015, but both have since shuttered, the first in 2016 and the latter in 2019. And looking at state news, Brumley to head education department. Bessie selects Jefferson Parish Superintendent in tight vote by Will Sintel, staff writer. Kate Brumley, superintendent of the Jefferson Parish school system, was named state superintendent of education Wednesday after 2 tense rounds of voting. Brumley, 39, got the 8th and deciding vote when it was cast by Sandy Holloway, president of the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, or Bessie. The selection required at least 8 of 11 votes on Bessie, and meeting that threshold ended in an impasse that went on unofficially for days and even after the voting began. In the first round, efforts to name Brumley and the 2 other finalists for the job produced 6 to 5 votes, prompting a 10-minute break for board members. The other finalists nominated Wednesday were Jessica Bagian, 35, Assistant State Superintendent of Education, and Lonnie Luce, 51, former superintendent of the St. James Parish School System. All 3 were at the meeting, and Brumley, who watched from the back of the auditorium, received congratulations after the vote was announced. As a Louisiana boy, I am just overjoyed by the opportunity to do this work, Brumley said in a brief interview. But the new superintendent will be paid when he takes his job, and other details are still to be worked out. Former Superintendent John White was paid $275,000 per year, and state officials said Brumley's salary is near that in his current job. Brumley could be confirmed by the state Senate for adjournment on June 1st. His salary is subject to review by the Joint Legislative Committee on the Budget. The selection is a victory for Governor John Bell Edwards, who 3 appointees on Bessie backed Brumley on both ballots when he was the nominee. Doris Voyeter of Metairie, Belinda Davis of Baton Rouge, and Tommy Rogue of Alexandria. Edwards chafed during the tenure of White, and his education allies were long aligned with the winner. Kate has a record of success as a teacher, coach, principal, and as superintendent of 2 districts, DeSoto and Jefferson Parish, the governor said in a statement. What I know and appreciate about Kate is that as a leader, he has a record of being inclusive. He has a seat at the table for everyone. He seeks and listens to input from all stakeholders. In the second round of voting, Bagian got 6 votes and 5 opposed. Brumley won 3 votes in the second round that did not have in the first. Holloway, Preston Castile of Baton Rouge, and Kira Orange Jones of New Orleans. Holloway and Orange Jones initially backed Luce, and Castile sided with Bagian. In the run-up to Wednesday's meeting, advocates of sweeping changes in public schools generally backed Bagian, while teachers' unions, school board members, and Brumley's fellow superintendents were seen as aligned with him. But after the vote, Holloway disputed the view that Brumley's selection will mean any kind of undoing of major school changes implemented in recent years. I do not expect any of our candidates to roll back accountability and high standards, curriculum, etc., she said. I truly believe he will move us forward. Others said they did not want a prolonged deadlock, especially after a 4-month hunt and public schools in limbo because of the coronavirus pandemic. Orange Jones said after the tally that the view Brumley wants to unravel key changes on public schools was largely created by the news media. He's a proven reformer, she said. The superintendent carries out policies enacted by Bessie. The superintendent also plays a huge role in the direction of charter schools, how public school teachers are rated, state aid for public schools, and what education issues get the spotlight. Tony Davis, vice president of the board, and another member previously considered sympathetic to backers of sweeping changes, backed Brumley in the first round, then Bagian in the second round. But when it became apparent she didn't have the votes to win, he changed his vote to Brumley. This is a tough choice for everyone, Davis said after the vote. He said he believes Brumley can work with a wide range of groups to make sure we are serving the needs of every kid and their parents across the state. Belinda Davis, one of the governor's appointees, said Brumley was helped by some of the 7,500 public comments submitted to Bessie about the next superintendent, including the need for an educator who is seeing things from the ground level. Brumley is superintendent of the state's largest school district, which includes 51,000 students and 82 schools. Last year, voters in Jefferson Parish approved a 10-year property tax hike that raises about $29 million per year to boost pay for teachers and other employees. Before that, he was superintendent of the DeSoto Parish School System in Northwest Louisiana. Brumley has also served as an assistant superintendent, principal, assistant principal, teacher, and basketball coach. I'm tested, I'm proven, I'm ready to lead on day one, he said in his application letter for the job. Brumley received his undergraduate degree from Northwestern State University, his master's degree from LSU at Shreveport, and his doctorate from Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas. His wife, Toni, is a charter school educator, and the couple has 2 teenage sons. Bagian is an 8-year veteran of the State Department of Education and a graduate of Harvard Law School. While the news today didn't break the way I had hoped, I want to make one thing very clear. I am so very proud of our collective work on behalf of Louisiana's children and families, she said in the statement. The superintendent search went on for 4 months, including virtual interviews of roughly 100 minutes for each of the finalists. White left his post in March after an 8-year tenure. Beth Sino, a top official of the State Department of Education, has been serving as acting superintendent since then. On the decisive ballot, Brumley was backed by Castile of Baton Rouge, Belinda Davis of Baton Rouge, Toni Davis of Natchitoches, Ashley Ellis of Monroe, Holloway of Thibodaux, Orange Joe's of New Orleans, Tommy Rogue of Alexandria, and Doris Viator of Metairie. Voting no were Holly Boffey of Lafayette, Jim Garvey of Metairie, and Ronnie Morris of Baton Rouge. Let me take another sip here, please. All right. Okay, continuing on. Senate passes coastal lawsuit measure. Opponents say bill attempts to kill suits filed by parishes by Tyler Bridges, staff writer. The Louisiana Senate narrowly passed a measure on Wednesday night that opponents said was a disguised attempt to kill lawsuits filed by 7 coastal parishes against oil and gas companies. Supporters of Senate Bill 440 denied that, saying it was merely an attempt to ensure that any money collected from a settlement with oil and gas companies would go for coastal restoration. SB 440 now passes to a House committee for consideration after a 20-15 vote, which was the minimum number of votes needed to pass the Senate bill. The Senate needs 26 votes to override a gubernatorial veto. The Senate has been expected on Wednesday to take up Senate Bill 359 or 359, which contains clear language to nullify the parish lawsuits that representatives of oil and gas companies say have chilled investment. But before the debate began on SB 440, State Senator Bob Henskins, Republican of Abbeville, SB 359 sponsor, announced that not enough time passed before the legislature adjourns on June 1st to pass it. An hour later, the Senate took up SB 440. What followed was a confusing and arcane discussion led initially by State Senator Mike Fessy, Republican from Houma, SB 440 sponsor, and then State Senator Brent Allain, Republican from Franklin, who had more experience dealing with the issue. We've lost a lot of land over the years, Fessy said. We're referring to Terrebonne and Lafourche parishes. Allain said SB 440 would strengthen the Louisiana Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority, which oversees coastal restoration projects. State Senator Eddie Lambert, also a lawyer, said he saw an ulterior motive as he tried to parse the dense language of SB 440. This is a backdoor attempt to pass 359, Lambert, Republican Gonzalez finally said. Elaine, who had taken over the debate from Fessy, then noted that he wasn't the bill's author. Is this a backdoor attempt to pass 359, Lambert asked Fessy. I have no clue, Fessy replied. During the debate, Hensgens paced throughout the Senate chamber. SB 359 would retroactively invalidate the parish lawsuits, but allow the State Department of Natural Resources, which is under Governor John Bel Edwards or Attorney General Jeff Landry, to pursue them. Neither the agency nor the Attorney General's office has the money to pay for outside attorneys and expert witnesses. However, the Department of Natural Resources estimated Tuesday that each case would cost at least $4.3 million. The Talbot, Camus, Marcello law firm in Baton Rouge has filed 42 suits against about 100 oil companies for Jefferson, Cameron, St. John the Baptist, St. Bernard, Vermilion, and Plaquemines parishes. John Jarmusch has said in recent days that his firm has spent $9 million on just the first two cases. Under the parish lawsuits, the Jarmusch firm is footing the entire bill. The Jones Swanson law firm has filed for Orleans Parish. State Senator Jay Leno, Democrat Alexandria, said SB 440 would jeopardize a $100 million tentative settlement that Camus has reached with Freeport McMoran, a small player in Louisiana's oil and gas industry. That's what it's all about, said Leno, a trial attorney. Elaine denied that. I am simply trying to clarify that if there are no judgments in the future, the money goes to the coast, he said. There is no hidden motive with me. State Senator Patrick Connick, Republican of Marrero, another critic of SB 359, said Elaine and Fessy wanted to pass SB 440 and have it moved to the House where oil and gas industry allies will attach the original language of SB 359 on it. Elaine said he would not agree to any changes in the House, but State Senator Troy Carter, Democrat out of New Orleans, noted that Fessy's view mattered most because he is the bill's sponsor. He asked Fessy if he were to reject an amended version of SB 440 passed by the House once it returned to the Senate. I can't say that, Fessy said. Several minutes later, Fessy said the lawsuits have driven oil companies out of Louisiana. Said his real concern was SB 440 is, I'm here to save our coast. Okay, well, it is 9:55 when we generally end our broadcast. But I do have one more story, sports story that I would like to read. So at this time, our TV stations will stop the audio portion of this morning's broadcast. But if you want to tune in to hear the sports story and a few other items newsworthy, then please continue to listen on our YouTube station, which is AOC Community Media, and our online streaming radio station at Cypress, that's CYPRESS, Cypress Street Radio. Our streaming online service, you just go to that page, click on the play button, and listen to my melodious voice. I do have one more story that I would like to read. See if I've read everything up to this point. Yes, I have. Okay, so let's read about this sports story, and then we'll end our broadcast for the morning. Coaches prep for a difficult summer and fall by Kevin Foote, staff writer. It's not that high school football coaches have never been thrown on curveballs before. It's not that disinfecting locker rooms have never been part of a coaching staff's protocol. But coaches all over the Acadiana area are bracing for a summer and then a fall unlike any they've experienced. Having it is better than not having it. But a lot of people are going to have to understand that we all need to be patient, and we are going to have to do things we've never ever had to do at any time in our careers, Loreauville football coach Terry Martin said. When the summer season officially begins on June 8th, players will be able to work out, but only in groups under 10 during phase 1 and then under 25 in phase 2. Coaches will need to maintain social distancing, and every player's temperature will have to be taken each day. It's definitely going to be foreign, Church Point coach John Craig Arsenault said. In phase 2, if we're going to put them in groups, and those groups aren't going to get too mixed through the month of June, that way if we do have a kid that gets sick, can just quarantine or shut down that group as opposed to having to shut down the entire team. Of course, we'll be taking temperatures. We have protocols in place for our staff and things like that. During the season, we disinfect our locker room twice a week and our training room 3 times a week. We're going to have to be very vigilant and really be on the side of doing it way more than it is practical. If they're telling us to do it 3 times a week, we're probably going to do it 5. Martin said even some of the basics during the summer, like supplying water to players, will be more complicated than normal. Getting them water is going to be a huge, huge issue, Martin said. We can't use water foundations. We can't use the water bottles we've always used. We can't use the sophisticated hydration machines. We can't use any of that. What they're saying is they have to bring their own, or they have to use a single disposable cup. And the person putting water in the cups has to be masked and gloved. We're talking about building the old PVC type water things we used to have. Those things would have algae in them, but we'll come up with a way of draining them after each usage, and there's a minimum of at least 6 feet between each one drinking, and if that, it shoots at least 3 or 4 feet to where they can't touch it or sweat on it. Keeping players apart could be the biggest difficulty for coaches. If you have to put one coach with every 9 kids, it's going to be painful, but we'll figure it out, Como coach Doug Dotson said. We can separate them when they're with us, but what happens if you have 2 best friends in different groups? After practice, they're going to be playing video games at one of their houses. Not everyone is adhering to stay away. At some point, we'll be trying to control something that we don't really have control over. Martin agrees, fearing kids are always play fighting and so ingrained in everything they do. It's going to be no touching, no sharing cell phones. The other change for some coaches will be the type of strength and conditioning utilized this summer. That's why we're going to take more of a function training approach, Arsenal said. We know some of our kids have been working out, but we're going to take the approach that our kids have sat around for 8 weeks. So we're going to have June, July, and the first half of August to get them in shape and make sure that we're functionally ready to go. When we understand that we're going to have to miss that heavy strength training component, but it is what it is. Bridge football coach Chad Porcero said getting players in shape will be more difficult with the restrictions. He's also concerned any shortcomings in that area will result in more injuries down the road. I hope it doesn't end up this way, but I would expect to see an injury increase this year just because kids aren't going to be as good as shape, Porcero said. There will be less weight room time, and they just won't be as prepared as it would be in a normal year. We've got to accept and try to accept them and get them as prepared as we can. Taking it slow in June could also prevent short-term injuries as well. I think it's something everybody has to be worried about, Martin said. It's all the jumping and running and cutting that we normally do. If you take the whole weight room out, I think it's a legitimate concern for everyone. When we do come back, how fast do you do full speed movements of any type of drill when you're actually going full speed and trying to change direction? All right, folks, that pretty much wraps up the news. I do have one last little item to talk to you about. It's featured in the Advocate. And it says, tell us your best or worst dad joke. So here are a couple of jokes to get you in the mood. Dad, can you put my shoes on? Well, son, no, I don't think they'll fit me. I used to hate facial hair, but then it grew on me. Well, we heard you grows from here, but we heard you grown from here, but then what's a good or at least bad dad joke? What does it make you do? Is your dad the master of the groaner? If your dad is, what's your best joke? Send them to us for a Father's Day story. We guarantee will lighten the mood, and we all need that at this time in our lives. Be sure to include your full name and your dad's name if it's this joke and the city where you live. Email jokes to features@theadvocate.com by June 14th for all your favorite dad jokes, both bad and not so good. All right, well, that pretty much wraps up this today's broadcast. As always, I enjoy reading the news to you. If you're at all interested in doing what I've been doing from the confines of my House office. You may do so by going to aocinc.org. Find the application form for the volunteer reading program, or volunteer newspaper reading program, I should say. Sign up and we will train you. You can do this directly from your home if you have the technology to do so. And our always unflappable engineer, Matt Roberts, will be at your side, helping you through whatever training you need. And we would love for you to join us if you're interested. So go to aocinc.org. And as always, stay safe and healthy out there. Please follow protocols, wear your mask when you're going to go out and be around people, especially if you're going shopping. Now that the mall is slightly open, please take protocols seriously. We definitely need to continue dropping down the statistics as far as cases and deaths belong to this coronavirus. It's going to be with us for a while. So please take all protocols and advantages you can to make sure that you don't get sick and that somebody doesn't affect you as well. So again, have a pleasant day, be kind to each other, and we'll see you on the flip-flop. Have a great day.